Anyone on the wrong side of the law in the Old West went out of their way to avoid one man in particular, one name which was the very definition of frontier justice: legendary lawman and gunfighter Wyatt Earp. Wyatt Barry Stapp Earp was born in Monmouth, Illinois on March 19, 1848, and was the fourth out of 8 kids. He grew up and started his career in law enforcement relatively young, being appointed constable in 1869 while he was in love with a young woman named Orilla Sutherland. They were married and she became pregnant, but tragically died before she could give birth of typhoid fever in 1870. This, of course, had serious damaging and lifelong effects on Earp, who turned to a life of alcohol and crime, stealing horses and working in brothels as a bouncer or enforcer after leaving Peoria, Illinois for Wichita, Kansas. In 1875, Wyatt Earp made his way out to Dodge City, Kansas, which would become the site of his reappearance on the right side of the law and the beginning of his friendship with professional gambler, former dentist, and fellow gunfighter Doc Holliday. He also met his common-law wife, a prostitute named Mattie Blaylock, who Earp was with for many years. By 1879, he'd had enough of Dodge City and relocated with Mattie, Doc Holliday, and his brothers Virgil and James Earp to Tombstone, Arizona, with more of their family on the way. In 1880, they'd have their first run-in with the Cowboys. They were an outlaw group also known as the Cochise County Cowboys, accused of rustling cattle, and some people consider them to be one of the earliest forms of organized crime in the country. Their most prominent members were Curly Bill Brocious, Johnny Ringo, Ike Clanton, and Frank Stillwell, to name a few. A feud began between the two groups, which led to the legendary gunfight at the OK Corral after members of the group had threatened to kill the Earps for weeks. The participants included Wyatt, Morgan, and Virgil Earp, and Doc Holliday, fighting against Ike and Billy Clanton, Tom and Frank McClory, and Billy Claiborne. Virgil and Morgan were shot. Holliday was grazed. The Earp faction did better than the Cowboys. Tom and Frank McClory were killed, along with Billy Clanton. The rest of the Cowboys had run when the shooting started. The shootout lasted only 30 seconds, but it made Earp famous, and the feud wasn't over. The Cowboys retaliated in 1881 by ambushing Virgil and shooting him, though he survived. The year after, in 1882, Morgan Earp was assassinated while playing pool. In what would later become known as the Earp Vendetta Ride, Wyatt Earp would begin his revenge by gunning down Frank Stillwell and Curly Bill Brocious at different times and locations, which fractured and ultimately became the end of the gang. Several more members of the gang, like Johnny Ringo and Ike Clanton, were killed in various shootouts over the years, and Wyatt Earp ended his law career. After leaving his common-law wife for Sadie Josephine Marcus, he moved to Los Angeles and became involved in the earliest days of the movie world in Hollywood. Wyatt Earp was the last of the surviving Earp brothers and the last surviving member of the gunfight at the OK Corral. He died in 1929 at the age of 80.